Hi there, my name is Sam from Worlds.com and welcome to a new camera comparison video. This time between the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra, the Oppo Find X3 Pro and OnePlus 9 Pro. In this video we are going to show you the video and photo performance in daytime and also nighttime conditions. The different modes like portrait, macro, zoom and slow motion feature, as well as the autofocus and sound performance. But before we start, just another reminder. We are hosting an international giveaway in collaboration with GadgetByte, Mike O'Brien, where we will be giving away these 3 smartphones. Just click the link in the description and follow the instructions. And don't forget to check our partners' YouTube channels. I hope you're ready for this comparison now. Let the facts speak. So, first we are going to show you the video performance. We shot on all 3 phones in 4K with 30 frames per second. Let's start with the ultrawide camera. The OnePlus in our opinion looks the most natural, while the Oppo is a little bit too flat. But the Xiaomi is totally oversaturated, which leads to unnatural colors. It is also noticeably darker than the other 2. The second example confirms that once more, although you have to say that the color rendering is also a matter of taste. With the wide camera we notice that the Xiaomi and the OnePlus having problems with their autofocus. While the Xiaomi has to adjust every time Casper turns, the OnePlus needs a couple of seconds to find the right focus point to get the main subject into focus. The Oppo on the other hand does a very good job. Okay, let's check out the different cameras now. We started off with the ultra-wide and wide camera again. And of course we see the different approaches on color rendering again. As you can see from the shadows, the sun came out for a little bit, and although Casper obviously got dark circles around his eyes, on all 3 phones, the OnePlus still manages the situation the best. The overall quality is still great on all 3, until we switch to 2x zoom, where you see the Xiaomi weirdly over-sharpening everything, which is not very pleasant for the face. The OnePlus does the opposite and looks a bit like as if a soft focus filter was applied. And even though the skin tone that the Oppo creates is still not very favorable, its contours are on point. Now let's max out the zoom on all devices. Needless to say, the Xiaomi leaves this competition far behind in this one. Even though you have to admit that the bricks and the plants strangely looks almost like they were painted. The Oppo on the other hand has with 20 times the largest zoom, but its results isn't exactly great. And the OnePlus just shows a bad performance. Next is the stabilization feature. First, a short run with the feature turned off. As you can see, the OnePlus actually already looks like it has the feature turned on, although we promise it's not. The Xiaomi on the other hand is a little bit shaky, and the Oppo also doesn't shine. And now with the feature turned on. Xiaomi remains shaky. Unfortunately, we couldn't spot a significant improvement to the footage from before, whereas Oppo and OnePlus are similarly performing well. Since all camera systems have a macro lens feature, we will take a look at how they manage to get really close to an object. As you can see, Xiaomi and OnePlus are getting equally close to the coin, and Oppo has a little bit more distance. But the Oppo has a dedicated micro lens camera, which lets you get even closer when turned on. Let's take a look. On the left you see a picture of the coin and a circle marks the spot where we are on the right. And yes, you need a steady hand, but the results are incredible, don't you think? Okay, the next focus test is the autofocus test. That means how fast can the camera software recognize the main subject in the picture. We gotta say, even though the Xiaomi has the biggest focus shift, all 3 are focusing similarly fast. We went through the footage frame by frame in post, and each time a different camera were performing better or worse. So we couldn't really spot a winner in this one. Another feature that needs to be looked at is the slow motion feature. And the camera that really outshined the other ones in this one is most definitely the one from Xiaomi. 1920 frames per second in 1080p looks incredible. The other 2 are only capable of 480 frames per second in 720p, but we gotta mention that the Mi 11 Ultra is only able to record around 5 seconds, whereas the other ones have a longer recording time. That brings us to one of the last video features, the portrait mode. And well, it is once again a tricky one. Right from the beginning, Xiaomi does not perform as good as the other 2. It always has softness around the edges, which lets you recognize that the bokeh is created by an algorithm. Oppo and OnePlus are doing a way better job. Still, if you really look closely, there are also some mistakes here and there. And last but not least, before we head over to photography, a crucial feature of videography is the audio quality and the front camera. So, this is actually the sound quality of the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra, of the Oppo Find X3 Pro and the OnePlus 9 Pro. So let's start photography with the last feature that we ended the videography segment with, the portrait mode. And on first sight, the Oppo seems to handle this feature the best. But that might have something to do with the fact that it adds the least amount of bokeh to the background. Still, it is in our opinion the most natural looking one. A good way to see how the software is working is when standing next to a plant. But see for yourself. In the second one, Xiaomi seems to handle the situation the best. A difference is noticeable when you look at how the systems are handling the color scheme and the light adjustments, where the Oppo had the most natural looking images in these terms. Here's another good example of how the algorithm is failing now and then. This image shows that the OnePlus weirdly cuts out the pull, and the Oppo also sharpens the window right behind the pull. Switching to portrait mode of the front camera, all three are doing an acceptable job. The most natural looking one is again the Oppo. The soft focus of Xiaomi is in our opinion a little bit too much, and the OnePlus is a little bit too rough around the edges. The Oppo hits right in the middle of the two. In the next one, we will directly compare the different cameras, starting with the ultrawide camera. The Xiaomi has the overall widest field of view. The main difference beside that is the color rendering. The Xiaomi with the most and the Oppo with the least amount of contrast, and the 9 Pro somewhere in between. The Xiaomi's high contrast becomes even more obvious when moving on to the wide camera. All three appear equally sharp. The only difference again is in terms of color rendering, which at the end comes down to personal preferences. At 3x zoom, it again comes down to personal preferences. While the Oppo is the softest, the other two appear as if there's a lot of extra sharpening going on. Differences again appear in terms of the white balance. At 10x zoom, Xiaomi shows off its great zoom capability. Where Oppo and OnePlus start to lose quality, the Mi 11 Ultra still has lots of details. It gets even more obvious when zooming in 30 times. We gotta mention that the Oppo is only capable of zooming in 20 times, which means that we had to crop in and post to make it comparable. And the OnePlus zoom is maxed out in this one. And since the Mi 11 Ultra has a 120 times zoom capability, we had to show you a direct comparison from this one too. The Mi 11 Ultra is clearly the zoom champion in this comparison. But while the Oppo is lacking by zooming in to an object that is far away, it can get even closer to an object that is really close. So, as you can see in this comparison, we take a look at the macro feature. While the Oppo and the OnePlus get equally close to an object with the regular camera, the Xiaomi needs more distance. With the micro lens on the Oppo, you can get even closer. Can you guess what country this is? Yep, it is Great Britain. Alright, before we head over to the nighttime comparisons, here we have a couple of other examples for you to compare. I guess it is obvious that all three have their problems with this mode in low light conditions. The Xiaomi certainly has the best overall picture quality, showing the most sharpness and details, although there is a little software failure on the right side of the head. The Oppo has the least contrast and also looks very blurry, but it managed the problem with the stray hairs the best, which the OnePlus decided to ignore completely, and they just cut out every stray hair. The picture is also a little fuzzy, and the color rendering is not very pleasing for the face. The second example shows the same as before. The Xiaomi looks the best, the Oppo has low contrast, and OnePlus is again not very pleasant for the face. But what speaks for the OnePlus is that its software is an absolute expert in fixing your hair. Because if you take a second look at Xiaomi's picture, you notice that there is again some stray hair on the left on Casper's head, which OnePlus fixes away. And in Oppo's picture, that hair looks almost like it turned into some sort of structure. When shooting with the main lens in night mode, we realized that there wasn't that big of a gap between our three competitors concerning the actual photo quality. What we did notice though is a big difference in terms of contrast and saturation. The Oppo is very flat, while Xiaomi sometimes creates unnatural color tones. The OnePlus has the most contrast and in our opinion also the best color rendering in this mode. In the second example, you can see what I mean by unnatural colors. Especially the Xiaomi, but also the Oppo displays an almost pink traffic light, while the OnePlus stays pretty close to nature. This is the same in almost all of the pictures we have taken in this mode, but see for yourself. Now let's switch over to the nighttime video comparison. We started with the wide camera first. As you can see, the Oppo appears very dark in this one, and the Xiaomi appears too bright. This also leads to a glow effect around the lights. Besides that, the color difference is like before very noticeable, especially when the traffic lights turned red. So, good job OnePlus. Next up, the ultrawide camera. Here it's more or less the same picture again, with the Oppo being the darkest and the Xiaomi being the brightest. But this time the Mi definitely managed their white balance better, leading to a lot better and more natural coloring. And strangely enough, the OnePlus went the opposite route, which you can see best when once more looking at the traffic light. Okay, we have again 3 different but at the same time similar camera systems. And again, it depends on what you are looking for in a smartphone camera. While the Xiaomi has a great zoom, the Oppo gets the most natural looking images. And OnePlus has a great stabilization feature and does an overall good job. In the end, we hope that we were able to show you the most important features that might help you to decide which of these phones you would rather get. If so, let us know in the comments below which camera you like the most. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Till then, take care and see you in the next one.